Welcome back to the Prayin and Slaying Podcast, a Light the Fire Outdoors production. This episode kicks off a special 3-part series with Aaron's younger brother Chris and the story of his first ever successful big game hunt on Wyoming antelope. In this first episode, the brothers reminisce on their days in the Air Force, go over the science of pressurized hot air, and tell stories of how Chris got interested in big game hunting. With that, let's jump in with dem boys, Aaron and Chris. Well, this has been a long time coming, mostly because of scheduling issues, I feel like. Yeah, but you're a professional. I'm semi-professional. And you got a busy schedule, so I'm glad to have you on, dude. So this, for everybody that's listening, is one of my most... There's a lot of build-up for me in this, because not only did we get my younger brother, who's 6 inches taller than I am, on a podcast, but at least we also took him on his not his first big game hunt ever. He did go a couple times in Iowa when we were growing up, but he went on his first big game hunt with me in a long time. It's been a long time coming, and he got his very first big game animal ever, which happened to be an antelope buck in Wyoming, which is awesome. So today, kind of going to be a back and forth a little bit about his version of that tale, because for those of you who've met my brother, him and I are a little bit opposite when it comes to personalities, ins and outs. Just we're different people, as you can imagine. I mean, everybody is, but I'm super excited to just hear his version of events here, because it never fails. Every time we get together and you hear him tell a story about something, no matter how you remember it, you always get more laughs out of it. And it's always interesting to hear a different perspective. So a lot of anticipation behind this one. So with that, my little brother, Chris, I'm going to let him introduce himself and just tell him a little bit about yourself, as where you're at nowadays. And just kind of give us an intro as to who you are, because I don't even know anymore.
Yeah. I'm Chris Stonehocker, the younger Stonehocker. Both born and raised in Iowa, and then went to college at Iowa State. Had to start making money, so I got a job in Kansas City for about a year.
You don't have to get money. Job, you could live off mom and dad. They like you better than me.
I doubt that. You talk to them. I don't. Or not that I don't. You talk to them way more than I do. But yeah, so I went to Kansas City for about a year, and then that job moved me to Austin, Texas. Yeah, so been living down here in Austin. As you can see, I'm growing my hair back out, figuring that out.
No, it's very attractive.
And whatnot. Just living the life down here, playing volleyball, eating tacos, and doing civil engineering. So not much outside of that. But
heck yeah. So as he said, my little brother, 3 years younger than me, 6 inches taller than me, and he's living the hot life down in Texas. I thought it was funny. Like, I don't know, he comes up, it's basically a family tradition at this point that Chris comes and visits us over Christmas. So my wife and I are in the military, as you guys know. We lived in Virginia for a few years. Chris came out every year for that, which is always an awesome tradition to have. Now we moved to Montana, polar opposite weather, but Chris has always come up and visit us as well. And over, was it 2 years ago? I don't remember exactly if it was 2 years or 3 years ago. Anyway, one of the first times we were up here in Montana for the Christmas, Chris, I remember him sitting in the truck because it was too cold for him to go check out this state park that we were at. So Texas has definitely changed him from an Iowa winter boy to a more warm-blooded individual.
Well, I mean, I don't know if you can see, but I'm wearing a jacket right now, and it's 67 degrees in the house. So
he is. I'm wearing a hoodie, and it's 40 degrees out here in Montana, but I have no shirt underneath it. It's just a hoodie, my casual go-to, and he's wearing 2 shirts at 60 degrees in Texas.
I don't know why you tried to raise the sex appeal of the podcast with someone wearing a shirt, but seems unnecessary.
I've got plenty of hair growing in there. I'm turning into a man officially. Just ask Jess.
Right. You brought the sex appeal back down, so we're back in the baseline. All right.
Amen. No, that's awesome,
Peaks
man. So what's that?
I said peaks and valleys. I got you.
Yeah, no, absolutely. There's definitely a valley between these chesticles, that's for sure. Big valley there. So no, just a little background on Chris and I growing up. I don't know, man. This is, like I said, every time I get together with my little brother, it's always a fun time. I always look forward to it. But man, yeah, both, I don't know, both did Air Force stuff. Chris was a National Guardsman as well for the United States Air Force, did the exact same job I did with weapons. And then he transferred into civil engineering, which was cool because it actually transferred directly into what he does now as an engineer. No, not at all. He's shaking his head.
Nope.
This is also cool because I can see him in video. I never do podcasts with video going, so he's shaking his head.
Know, so that's why I added it.
No, it's beautiful. It's a beautiful thing.
Yeah. No, so I did emergency management, which the whole reason I did it is because it's grouped into the civil engineering like squadron, and the whole setup is how the Air Force throws it in there. But I didn't fully realize until I'd already kind of applied to get it during the whole BRAC and everything change, that it has little to do with civil engineering. If any type of engineering, it has probably much more to do with chemical engineering due to the sea burn effect. And it's just fire and EM, emergency management, are essentially, as the fire chief worded it, the redheaded stepchildren of civil engineering.
You got to
nowhere else to go. Yeah, well, we'll see. Yeah, essentially, I was like, I thought it'd be a great resume builder to be able to graduate college and be like, oh yeah, I've been doing, some sort of civil engineering stuff, for the Air Force too for years. And then it looks good on a resume and they ask you about it. And it's like, yeah, I've been in a gas chamber with sarin and VX nerve agents. That was pretty neat. And yeah, I've played with bombs, or not really, but looked at a lot of diagrams and played with fake ones. But yeah, fun stuff.
Yeah. Total fun stuff. So, but yeah, cool background to have. Yeah, now he's a civil engineer down in Texas. But so as far as background into hunting, the thing that I remember the most about Chris and I growing up is going over to our grandma and grandpa's house on my mom's side. Every time we went over there, from my earliest memories, I guess, I'm sure before this time we didn't, but there were always BB guns. We always seemed to find a way to find something to shoot, whether it was making potato guns or like, I feel like we always had BB guns. I mean, do you remember like going back to like, what was that craft store grandma used to always like to go to, and they had like the end cap with the copperhead BBs? Yeah, Ben Franklin's. I just remember like the coolest part of the day was going over there, grabbing the big 9 million pack open like milk carton container of BBs, and then going back to your grandma and grandpa's and finding stuff to shoot at.
Yeah, which I'm sure they meant well with that design, but I think about a quarter of them always ended up in the garage gravel. And
for sure, or in the grass, shot out of lawnmowers.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, now because I remember, I think Grandpa, I can't remember if it was Uncle Justin's or Uncle Sean's, had that old pellet gun there for the longest time, but it seemed to have a not so slow leak or something, because we would pump it 12 to 15 to 24 times to get a shot, and it still hit a bird and fall off it. And then I remember, like, we finally started buying, or I guess you started buying some because you had your hot dog money from Stu Hanson's.
Amen.
And I remember Brandon and I broke that, or didn't mean to break it, but we're breaking stuff in the burn pit and needed something to break glass, so we didn't want to cut ourselves with, so we used the barrel of that thing and didn't realize we bent it and in the process and destroyed it. But
yeah,
so not a plug for Red Ryder. I hope they're not sponsored this podcast, but
that was a Red Ryder, wasn't it?
Yeah, their BB guns don't stand up to the average eight-year-olds abuse.
No, yeah, Red Ryder's cool for the Christmas story, not so cool for the Stonehocker story. Yeah, you find something to break. So our grandparents always had this burn pit that was, we'd built like this clubhouse, I don't know, 10 feet from this burn pit that my grandpa had. It was what?
Real safe.
8 foot by 8 foot wide or something. I don't know. Mm-hmm. Just this giant square fenced in area that he threw crap to burn. And so our hobby, whenever we'd go over there for the weekend, once we had pellet guns, was to figure out what was in there that was still something we could pull out that hadn't blown up or burnt yet, put it in the burn pit, set up a series of targets, and shoot the crap out of it. That was the weekend fun.
What's up, guys? It's Aaron coming at you with a break from the podcast here to remind you to go over and check out lightthefireoutdoors.com. And today I want to just make sure I call out specifically the Blackhound Optics 4-14 by 44 first focal plane mill scope. And that's actually the scope that I was using on my new 6.5 PRC on this hunt, as well as the gun that I took down with my brother to Wyoming on a hunt you're going to hear about here in a next follow-on episode podcast. But man, these Blackhound optics, I can't say enough about them. The price point, first and foremost, is absolutely phenomenal. You get way more than what you pay for with these scopes. Second, the glass quality is amazing. I've been able to see, during bear season, I was out filming deer across the canyon at last light in dark timber at like 700-800 yards, and you could just totally make them out. Awesome glass clarity, tons of light transmission there, and they allow for easy follow-up shots. First year getting into the mill scopes from MOA, and I absolutely love it. The reticle makes it super easy for holdovers. My brother and I made some pretty cool long shots you're going to hear about on the next podcast. And so if you are in the market for a rifle scope, consider supporting Light the Fire Outdoors and the Prayin and Slaying podcast by getting yours from us at lightthefireoutdoors.com. At the shop, check out all of the Blackhound optics we have to offer. And like I said, they make a great scope, great price point, and you're supporting veterans, conservation, and ministry outreach here at Light the Fire Outdoors by getting yours from us. So let's get back to this hunt and hear more about how I used my Blackhound optic 4-14 by 44 to finish up this hunt.
So there's plenty of stories around that. I remember one time, I don't remember what pellet gun it was. I think it was the one. So he also, our grandpa on my mom's side, raised hogs. And so when he got rid of his hog business, he took all the Quonset huts and all this extra junk, and he kind of, like, I don't know if he bulldozed it or what. He put it all in this big pile. We always called it the junk pile, I think, down in the far end of his yard. So Chris and I we'd always go down there and dink around. There was always rabbits and random things that would hide out in there. Well, we end up finding, like you said, that random pellet gun that you'd pump a million times and it would just barely squeak a pellet or a BB out the end of it. And I remember, I'm almost positive it was that one. Maybe it was a different pellet gun. But anyway, the first hunt I think you and I ever went on outside of sparrows and stuff was chasing a rabbit around the yard. And the one thing I remember about this rabbit was we scared it out of that pit with whatever pellet gun we had. And we'd take turns off and on shooting at this thing when it would stop running. But it would run in this like square shaped like route around the yard. So it would run to one corner and stop. We'd sneak up on it. We'd shoot it. It would run to the next corner and stop. We'd sneak up on it and shoot it there. And I don't remember which one of us. All I remember is like one of us finally pinwheeled it through the eyeball and it did this huge backflip. And then we had this trophy. The first trophy picture in the Stonehocker family, I think, was us holding this rabbit up in front of Grandma and Grandpa's house, proud as hell.
Yeah, that rabbit definitely didn't survive because it had many opportunities to escape. I mean,
so many
endless opportunities, and it just chose not to. Or it was just cocky. I don't know. I'm pretty sure we hit it a good 5, 6, 7, 8 times before hitting it someplace that mattered, and maybe it was just laughing at us. But with the arsenal we didn't have at our disposal. But yeah, I guess we technically got the last laugh on it. But
I don't know if it was a laugh or a cheer. It's pretty exciting when it finally went down for the final count.
It was definitely shock.
Yeah, for sure. Then I think moving on from pellet guns, I mean, pellet guns never got old. I think we had them our entire young adult life, even into the teens and in high school and stuff, and had fun with them there. But then we had Grandpa had an old I think it was a Bear. I don't even know the model, some old Bear bow, and that was like the very earliest version of a compound, if you can imagine it, for adults, not like a kid shooting bow. And then there was also a recurve that was always hanging in his garage. And we finally got into those. And I remember shooting boxes. I don't know if we ever hunted with those though, or like hunted around his house for rabbits or anything. I think we always just shot boxes and stuff with those.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that was kind of fun. And then I remember pinwheeling some rabbits. I think it was with you with blowguns, and those are a whole different ballgame.
Yeah, that was one of those things where I thought I wasn't hitting it. I thought I was just scaring it, and then I don't know. It was like, I can't remember if it was the same year or if it was like the year or so later when you got your AR and Grandma was sick of all the rabbits eating her rhubarb, and so all but paid us to shoot rabbits. We saw them, and we found out just what an AR can do to a rabbit by shooting it. And when we found the 2 pieces of the rabbit up there by the rhubarb, it had little needles sticking out of it that looked like they'd been there for a long time, and it had just healed and went on. And it's like, oh, I guess we were hitting it. I was just scaring it because it didn't react much. Like, it didn't seem like it was getting hit, and they were just those tiny little needle things that weren't like, they weren't easy to see, that you could just see it sticking out of it running off. It was just, thought I was missing and going into the grass.
Yeah, totally forgot about that. Yeah, so we, in the blowguns that we got, it came with, I don't know, 3 or 4 different styles of them, and one of them had like a bladed out, and like basically if you took a needle, heated it up and took a hammer and just smashed the end of it. That was basically the point on these things. But in our minds, it was like this broadhead. So we were out there trying to hunt rabbits and stuff with these blowguns, and I totally forgot about that. Yeah. So one time, like he said, we were out, grandma was trying to tell us, hey, get these rabbits out of my garden. And we had an AR-15 at the time, which was a major upgrade from anything that we had previous in terms of firepower. So anyway, we went out there and we ended up getting a couple of rabbits. Yeah, I totally forgot about that. One of them had still stuck in it from however long ago, these friggin' blowgun darts in it, which was insane. So yeah, blowguns are not a tool for hunting rabbit. Huh?
Yeah, further proof that those rabbits just don't want to live, because that thing had years after getting, I don't even know how many needles stuck in its body, and still decided like, hey, I like this farm. I'll do what I want.
I could have gone to any other farm in the vicinity. There were several.
Yeah, I'll never upgrade to firepower. I can do this.
Oh yeah,
I'll take an acupuncture treatment every couple of years and see how it goes.
And then outside of hunting, we got into potato guns. Those are like by far and large still one of my favorite things. I'm like super excited to get back into them someday. I just travel, and it's like you don't want to be having the movers come pack your stuff and there's like 15 potato guns in your garage. They got
on the back of your car when you're doing the ORI exercise. I remember the first couple of days of that. I forgot I had the Clementine in the back of my car until I was going to throw my mop gear bag into the back of my car after one of the days and saw it sitting there. And I was like, this thing looks like, for lack of a better term, an IED. Just PVC pipe, all sealed up into a pipe with a capped end with a red button on the end of it. And I just had it in the back of my trunk. So I guess security forces technically failed their inspection there, because I'd been on base 2 or 3 days straight with that. But
that's confidence in your military right there. For those of you who need it. But so ORI for what is an operational readiness inspection. Right. So basically on a guard base, every other base I'm sure does it too, but they do. It's like your
technically was ORE. Wasn't one of the because it was the exercise. ORI is like the prep, isn't it? It's been so long, I can't remember, but I think E would have been when we were actually like sitting out there.
The 2-week deal.
Running stuff.
So when you're in the guard, they advertise, be a part-time airman. You're going to get, 1 weekend a month, 2 weeks a year. The ORE was our 2 weeks a year deal. But yeah, so anyway, there was always the hold your breath moment, because you're so used to going on and off, during guard duty of, it's 100% military, but it's like, whatever, you're going to see your buddies for the weekend or whatever, right? Quote unquote 100% military. So either way, you're always looking forward to guard week. And within these, they have these 2 week long, basically 2 weeks of when you act for the most part in whatever career field you're in, like you're doing your full-time Air Force job 24/7, basically. So but then during that, of course, the security tightens up quite a bit in terms of like what they go through and the exercises they have to do for all the little facets of their job. So yeah, it's always funny, the guys that get on base that have a trunk full of beer that may or may not shouldn't have beer in their trunk, or Chris having a PVC pipe potato gun that looks like it's totally something different in his trunk. You're always holding your breath when you go through, or you're not holding your breath, but then you get into the workday and you realize what you got on base with. You're like, definitely shouldn't have that. Like, I better put it back. I'm glad I wasn't one of the cars that got inspected today.
Yeah.
But anyway, so what that's where we might have to cut that piece. I don't know if that might be
statute of limitations. I guess I don't know if it's technically a crime in the first place. I think it's just,
yeah. No, so potato guns were a huge thing, man. I remember, so we both worked at a hardware store. The guy that owned the hardware store, thank God we lived in a small town. He always would semi lend us his shop at the end of the night, like where they'd go, basically this old hardware building that they didn't use anymore. but he always would store stuff in there. But anyway, we could go in there and like we'd buy the supplies at the hardware store, all this PVC pipe, PVC glue, things to shoot out of the potato gun, whatever we could figure out would fit in the barrel. And then we'd go in there.
I'm going to use his name on this podcast now.
No,
So I'm not sure.
I don't know if we should use the name. Yeah, I don't want to burn his business to the ground. But we definitely. What's that?
I also didn't find out until college that apparently, and I can't remember. I think I looked it up for Iowa, and I can't remember now because it's been 10 years. But they're considered in like a unlisted firearm in a lot of states, and so it's like either just a crime, or in some states apparently it's like up to a felony to make potato guns.
What?
Because it's like like some states where they have like such like vaguely worded laws, it falls technically into the same category as if you were just like making unregistered firearms in your garage and whatnot.
No way.
Just because they never thought that there'd be 18-year-old kids sawing PVC pipe and shooting potatoes out of their backyard. They're just like, oh, well, people are manufacturing their own guns without regulations. Like, well, technically, okay, that fits that. Like, because I remember I used the Clementine, the small little, it was my version of a portable potato gun. So instead of having like a 6-foot long one, it was like 2-foot barrel and 2-foot tank. And so I could just toss it in my trunk. I used it for an engineering project in high school for like a college or credit class I was taking called Principles of Engineering for one of our projects dealing with like pneumatics and mechanical engineering. And I was like, oh, pneumatics, like I got PVC tubes in my garage and I ran it by the high school teacher, like, can I make a potato gun? And I had to show her videos on YouTube to explain what it was and like why I thought it fit the criteria of the project. And she's like, yeah, that's creative. Like, I've never had that. But she's like, sure, like, and it was a super easy project because I already had it made. So I didn't have to do anything. And my partner was totally on board. And I told him that. I was like, dude, it's in my car right now. Like, we've got it. Like, we don't have to do anything. Yeah. And anyway, so I explained to her, like, the teacher, because we had to like show her, projects at the end of that project portion or whatever. And so some people made like little like Connects cars that were like hydro cell powered and stuff, and wanted to show they were smart. And then I pulled the Clementine out of the trunk of my car, and I was like, I don't know if you just want to see it or if you have to show that it works. And she's like, we can go to the football field and shoot it if you want, like. And I was like, okay, like, it's your job. I don't care. Like, right. Like I'm a minor. They're not going to touch me. But sure. Like, and so pull the car over to that side of the football field and get it out. And there's a PE class running laps around the track.
Oh, nice.
And so I told, I don't want to say her name either, I guess. I told her, and I was like,
Mrs. P, for lack of a better.
Yeah, I was like, I don't know if they'll want to be there. And she's like, yeah, we should probably say something to them. And so she went and told them what we were doing, and we were at one end zone, they were at the other, and they just decided to go to the other end zone to watch. And all I didn't bring potatoes because I didn't plan ahead.
Why would you?
So I just had golf balls in the back of my car. And so I told her that from the get-go. I was like, yeah, like, you can shoot a 2-inch pipe, you can do potatoes if you want. But you can also shoot like golf balls. I didn't say the D and C batteries and stuff. We figured out later. But I was like, you can shoot golf balls, a decent distance. And I think I left it at that, the decent distance. And so I don't know, she wasn't dumb by any means, like, but I think she was thinking like, oh, they're 130, yards with the end zone and the little area behind it, like, and whatever. Like,
major underestimation.
And so I told her, I was like, no, this thing, like, they're in the line of fire, like, they shouldn't be there. And she's like, do you really think, you believe in your project that much? And I was like, the water tower is beyond the football field entrance. And I was like, I bet I could hit the water tower from here. And she actually bet me $5 I couldn't do it.
No way.
It took me the first shot went over it. The second shot, it was a little delayed, and I thought I missed it again. So I was starting to like reload it when you just hear like the boom, like radiated all the way like back. And I made $5 from it. But I tried doing the same thing when I got to college for my first physics class, when we were doing a project or something. And I was like, can I make a potato gun? Because I was gonna do the same thing. I was like, I already have it. Like, I'll just drive home, get out of mom and dad's garage, dust it off, and make sure it still sparks.
Yeah.
And that teacher went off on me about absolutely not. He's like, that is a federal crime. That is yada yada yada. And he's like, if I ever see that in my classroom, I will report you. Like, it's my obligation and like duty. And like, just went on a. I mean, he wasn't a great dude. He just kind of a dick, but yeah, like he knew what it was, because I tried to explain. I was like, no, it's just PVC. It's not an actual, like, it's not an actual gun. It's more of like a cannon with hairspray. He's like, no, I know what they are. He's like, I've seen them, online and stuff. And they're like, and so I thought he was just being a dick. And so that's when I went home and Googled it, and I was like, never would have thought of that. But I was like, I guess it kind of almost like how weed laws are nowadays, where there's like the CBD stuff where it's like, oh, technically that's a loophole because it wasn't around when they wrote the law, so they didn't even think about it.
Right.
Or like the whatever it is now, it's legal here in Texas, like Delta 8, same thing. It's like, oh, well, the chemical formula for THC when they wrote these laws was Delta 9, and so they wrote it for Delta 9, not thinking somebody would just be like, oh, I'll remove some stuff and make a new strain. Like, and so now it's a loophole or whatever that has it on shelves. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, it's the policy of Chris Stonehocker to neither confirm or deny that I had, different, like 4 or 5 different types of potato guns in or around my possession at different times, but it may or may not have been fine. I can neither confirm or deny.
No, for sure. Keep your anonymity alive and well, but screw it. I had plenty of them. Here. I full blown had plenty, and I still have at least 2 living ones.
You had full blown spuds?
Full blown spud cannons. Yeah, absolutely. Maybe we should just come up with a term, because if you ever look on Facebook nowadays, like all the, Facebook basically being anti-gun, they like all the gun shops and stuff, if they're advertising anything, they always like spell words out, or like for, a 223 caliber, they'll be like the number 2, the spelled out number 2, and then TRE, like they'll say tree or something, but like for advertising, they have ammo in stock or whatever. So Facebook like won't demonetize their posts or block them or whatever, which is pretty stupid. But for this podcast, I'm not going to. We have potato guns and we're proud of them. They're pretty damn cool. I need to look at the state of Iowa statute. So because now you got me curious, which I'll post in the show notes if I find them. So did you, via this teacher in your research, did you find out that we may or may not have been doing things that may or may not officially be illegal for the state of Iowa?
Like I said, I remember going home and Googling it and whatnot and looking into it and stuff. But that's where I found out it varied state to state. I can't remember what Iowa's was. And now I'm trying to Google it now. But
if you find it, send me the link. We'll put it in the show notes. But so that was gosh dang, dude, we had so much fun with those things. I don't know what. So did you confirm the distance between the you and that water tower?
No, I mean, I don't know if you've ever been to John Wayne's birthplace's high school. But yeah, it had a similar like slightly bigger scale, but like similar setup to like Earlham's football field and stuff, where it's oval track around whatever. They had a little beefier track because it was all weather, and they had like county track meets and stuff there. But behind that, they had some sort of, I don't know if it was like a bus garage or like a maintenance building. There's some building, it was kind of like a Morton building, and then beyond that was the water tower. Okay. So I mean, like I said, I was sitting on the goal line of the far side of the football field from it. So I mean, it would have been 110 yards of the back of the end zone on the other side, plus whatever that little oval shape pass that would have been for the track. I don't know how wide that property was behind it for that building, but it looked like it was immediately beyond that property. So like at least probably upper 100-something yards, maybe low 200-something yards. That's awesome. and then it was going up to, it was the height of a water tower. I was hitting the tank of it. I wasn't, just trying to hit the footing of it by any means.
That's my brother, ladies and gentlemen, the engineer. He's thinking A squared plus B squared equals C squared. And I'm just like, how far can a crow fly to get there?
Yeah.
He's also thinking wind drag and the golf ball's dimples do certain things to air and everything else. But no, the reason I asked is because the Clementine was a pretty short model. So I don't know how much this might just turn into a potato gun podcast, but the Clementine was like one of the shortest versions, I think, for sure, that you ever. I don't think I made one even close to that short, but normally, like he said, like these things were as tall as we were. So like pushing 4 to 6 feet long between the tank and the barrel. And these things would just sail some taters like downrange, dude. Like one of the ones, I don't remember if it was a 2-inch. So we dabbled between, well, I think everything from probably 3/4 inch all the way up to 2-inch barrels. No, we had a few that were bigger because didn't we make one that we tried to make, we were going to try to launch like paper towel rolls for TPing houses during homecoming or something.
Yeah, but it was, I can't remember if we tried it or if we just figured out that it was going to be a hassle because you would have to get it to fit perfectly around. Yeah, if you're going to do paper towels, if you're going to do toilet paper or whatever. But then you have to fill the middle solidly enough. Because I want it.
Yeah.
That's what I mean. But you'd have to pack it strong enough that it would be easier for the potato gun to push the whole thing out than it would just to shoot the pressure out the middle.
squirt the paper towel roll out the middle.
Yeah. Also, I did find
a
legal help website where somebody had asked if potato guns were illegal in Iowa, and then to be more specific, West Des Moines, Iowa. And it says, as a matter of statewide statutory law, possession of a potato gun is I'm skipping lines here, is characterized as a Class D felony if the device is powered, is powered by anything except for air. So the pneumatic ones, the pneumatic air pressure ones, are perfectly legal. They're classified as air guns. So just like a pellet gun.
Thank God that's all we had.
Yeah, I mean, we just heated up air with different types of substances and had to push stuff right out. Different household substances you can find at your local Ben Franklin's, to give them another shout out.
They have the best hot air.
Yeah. Hot air is so great when it expands.
I love hot air.
Amazing. Yeah.
Favorite. Wow. Well, that's amazing.
Good thing we never use gunpowder.
No, thank God.
Plus, I don't even know how that would have worked, I guess. But that's why it's also weird that the stipulation, they say like potato guns are only legal if you use air. It's like, what else technically pushes it out? Like,
yeah, air is what propels it. That's actually a good point.
Yeah. All you do is you take something that heats up rapidly and then the air expands and it shoots. The pressure from it shoots out.
Great lawyers. Yeah, no, that's perfect.
Exactly. Yeah. Well,
so
for me.
Well, and on the pneumatic ones, one of the second models of pneumatic air guns that we made out of the several that we did.
All pneumatic.
Yep. Yeah. Chris had this like U-shaped one that damn near took his head off when we were building it. So I would actually argue that U-shaped pneumatic air guns might be less safe than inline pneumatic air guns.
I almost feel like they should bump that down to a misdemeanor.
For sure.
I mean, being Class D, it's almost right there.
But so fast forward back again, now that we took that deep dive, that makes me feel a little depressed and kind of slightly cautious about who I should answer the door from for the next week. But
maybe that video of grandma shouldn't be circulating up here.
She just flipped the knob. You saw it in the video.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
She flipped the lever and released the air. So anyway, but some of these pneumatic air guns that we had, they would what was the one? So I think it was one of the first ones. We did a 2-inch pipe, and we launched a potato from our house like all the way into the soccer fields. We paced it off at like 193 yards?
No, because it went into the church, almost the church parking lot. It was just before the church parking lot.
Yeah,
it was like 200 and something yards because we expected it to do maybe 80 to 100. Obviously, we didn't run any numbers, so I don't know what we were basing that off of. If that was something off YouTube or Google or something.
Yeah.
But yeah, my early days in engineering, it was much like, well, let's blow something up and see what happens. And it went way further than
so much further.
Yeah. A lot of guess and check, not a lot of crunching numbers and figuring stuff out empirically. It's more,
amazing what you learn in college about engineering.
It's amazing we have 10, fingers. But yeah.
No, that's awesome, man. So anyway, so a lot of growing up, a lot of fun. Grandma and Grandpa's house, always a good place to experiment and play around with things to see what they do. Like you said, we're not going to get into the body armor testing that we did plenty of.
Still got scars.
Yeah, but that's okay. But so But no, so long, like as far as hunting's concerned, man, like I don't know really how I even got into it on my own, because obviously Chris and I grew up in the same household. That was basically the intro to both of us for any kind of hunting. Grandma and grandpa's pellet guns, rabbits, basic stuff. And then for me, it kind of just took a different route. Like I just got right into it. Like Chris has a famous story he tells where mom and dad were going to cancel cable because I was the only person who utilized it to watch the hunting shows. And but for you,
it's
man,
not that they were going to, it's that they did. And that's why I lost track of sports for over a decade.
My bad. So they my parents, boo-hoo, I saved them a bunch of money by watching the hunting channel. So anyway, so like for me, I've always been kind of curious because you did get like into high school. Was it high school, right? Like when you went on your first deer hunt?
Yeah.
Yeah. So you were in high school, worked at the hardware store, you got your first shotgun. Like what got you into like, I want to go deer hunting? For me, I honestly don't really know. I think it had a combination of us shooting guns. I really found a big interest in it. The bow thing got me interested. And then I just kind of like, kind of became consumed with it, but it was just kind of a natural thing. But for you, like what got you into say, hey man, I want to go my first deer hunt? Cause I got into hunting, got like 14. I think I got my first bow, went on my first bow hunt shortly after that, got a deer. And then it progressed into shotgun season as I got a little bit older. And then you followed behind there with shotgun season. We'd had a group that our dad and myself and a couple of his friends would go with. And then Chris, fast forward a few years, said, hey, I want to go. Like what got you to say, I want to go on a deer hunt?
I don't even really know. Honestly, I think part of it was just kind of getting older and realizing, I mean, in hindsight, because I was so old back then, but just kind of like hearing you guys talk about it, and it was something like you and dad had, and it was something that seemed like almost, I mean, it wasn't totally, obviously it's Kayla went and stuff like that too, but it almost seemed like a guys weekend type thing. And as I was getting older and, you know, into like high school and stuff, it's just kind of like, oh, like that. Like, it wasn't even like, I didn't even really know how I'd feel about it. So it wasn't like, it was like something I was like counting down the days until I was old enough that I would get a chance to, and was like itching and scratching to do it. It was just more of like, I can't, like kind of a story of a lot of things in life. For me, it was like, oh, I know I can do it. Like, it's not like, you know, like I've shot guns, like I'm a good shot, like, you know, whatever I especially back then, like I was a twig, you know, I can go hike hills in Iowa. It's not gonna like wear me out. Like I physically can do it. And, you know, like every year I just hear stories of like, oh, like all the stuff at deer camp and yada yada. And so it was like, well, shit, like I want to go, you know.
Yeah.
And already, like I was already at hunter safety, because in our school it was like 2 weeks or whatever during PE. Instead of PE, you had hunter safety with the local town cop would come in and teach it.
Yeah, you got lucky on that, because I had to go to the old fashioned one. We had to go like go to John Wayne's birthplace. And
oh, you did?
Yeah, I had to drive down there for there was some like I think it was like a skeet shooting range or something that would put it on. So anyway, you drove out there just down by Winterset, and they had a building that you could basically, they put on a class once a year. So you go down there, you had to go down for like a Thursday and a Friday night, I think. And then Saturday you had to go do like a field test where they basically, you had to walk around and demonstrate, you know, the proper gun handling things for crossing fences, handing off a gun to somebody, stuff like that. I don't think we had to shoot, because they would do like a trap shooting class. And I think for whatever reason, when I did that mine was canceled or something. They didn't do the shooting portion, but they set up like some demo stuff where you walked up and there was like a turkey decoy set out on this thing. And they said, okay, there's your turkey. You're sitting against this tree. You're going to shoot it. To walk me through your mental process. Like, so you basically had to say things like, oh, the turkey's got a backdrop. There's a hill behind him. So I know what's behind him. So I'm not going to, you know, potentially hit something past him, and like different things like that was kind of the thing that we had to do. I wish that we could have done on PE. That would have been a lot nicer, but
I thought they'd just always done that at our own, because we were the last class that did it, because there were a lot of, not just girls. That's how, when we were kids, we were always told, was like a lot of the girls' parents complained, but in hindsight, it probably wasn't the case. I think it was just that there were a lot of people that, whether they're, you know, girls or not, that just were like, I have no interest in hunting. I'm never going to go hunting. Why am I missing out on my steel to pin days and knockout days, you know, in PE to learn about gun safety and to learn about whatever. and it's not a voluntary thing. It's like, no, this is just your schedule. Like everyone in the class is doing it. You're in the class, so guess what? You're doing it.
But isn't that, looking back on it now, isn't that almost, I guess, just crossed my mind. I almost feel like that's better because PE is like the one class that you look forward to because you literally don't learn anything. But then like they're actually adding value to the course by saying, hey, you can actually walk out of here with a certificate that you may or may not ever use, but at least you got it.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I can see both ways because like well, especially in today's day and age, like if it wasn't our class that ended it, there would have been some class, because I can only imagine if their kid comes home like, what do you learn today? It's like, I learned how to load a shotgun. They're like, what? And stuff. But
yeah,
I mean, I could see it because I mean, like PE, I think like kind of, and I could be completely wrong in this, Des might correct maybe in a teacher herself, but is like an outlet for kids, especially at a young age. It's like you have all this pent up energy, you like, especially early on, because like early on days, like you're just literally, it almost seems like that's what it's meant for. Is, yeah, you have recess and stuff too, but it's like, here is an hour, here are dodgeballs. Who do you hate in the class? Aim for their face. Don't kill each other, but burn off energy.
Yeah.
And
Get rid of
I'm going to be in my office unless I hear anyone crying. Like, and
yep,
that's just what it felt like. And so
I'm going to change careers. You just made that sound very appealing.
I mean, there's a PE teacher opening, I believe it does at school. But
perfect. That's awesome. So deer camp for you was kind of more of the draw, I guess. And by deer camp, there was always a saying at this deer camp, I don't know if it even had, like, you couldn't even really give it a name. It was just a conglomeration of people. We happened to be part of it. But there was always a saying, what happens at deer camp stays at deer camp. So that allure and hearing that kind of stuff was like, kind of like, hey man, like I want to be a part of that.
Yeah, I mean, it sounded like Vegas, and I wasn't old enough to go to Vegas yet, but
it was basically Vegas. I mean, we gambled every cent we had away.
Yeah.
There was a lot
mainly
less
on beer and bologna cheese and whatever. But yeah.
Cheese sandwiches. Yeah, no, for sure. Tuna salad was a real thing. Ham salad was a very big bargaining tool. Yeah. That doesn't even sound appealing to this day. Like I still don't ever want to have a ham salad sandwich.
Or the peppermint schnapps.
That was appealing.
I was an indescript age, I will say. So being handed something like that to me made it seem like, oh, like, and I remember the phrase, like, this put hair on your chest. So I was like, of course it will. I'm so old. I'm a man. I remember drinking that, and I was just like, this might make me sober for the rest of my life.
Very true.
Which obviously it didn't.
Yeah.
As I'm sitting here drinking Blue Moon, but yeah, I just remember that. Like the first day, I was like, oh, it's like doing communion in church when you're a kid. And you're like, oh, I get to drink wine. It's amazing. Then you drink it and you realize that they don't even do the $2 chuck from Trader Joe's. They, wholesale it from somewhere. And it's like, oh, yeah, no, I'm glad this is once a month or whatever it is. And I have to look forward to that again for a while. Except with deer camp, it was like every morning. You're like, God, this shit again. Like, come on, man. Can't he just sleep in and forget about it one day? Like,
it's a holy wholesale.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so no, that's for sure. So tradition in our deer camp was regardless of age, the first year you went, you had to you couldn't carry a gun. Like that was kind of the generic rule there. So the idea was you're going to walk around with somebody else. You're going to kind of learn how things go, whether you're pushing or sitting, which for those of you who don't know about a deer drive in Iowa, it's called usually pushers or posters. Pushers walk a wood line, posters set up somewhere around the wood line and in a spot that they think the deer are going to run out. But either way, it didn't really matter. So if you're the first year, you're walking around with no gun in your hand to basically learn kind of how we do things, the safety of things, the order of things, yada, yada, yada. And the second year you could go and shoot. But the standing tradition, regardless of what status you had in the group, was that when someone got a deer, there was this really old guy, he's since passed. I guess we'll give a shout out to him because there's literally nothing this world can do to him anymore, is Ed. So Ed would always, he drove around in this freaking, was it a Cutlass? I don't even remember what it was. It was this old, like giant
old of a Buick or Mercury. Yeah.
I think you're right. I think it was
very rectangular, like boat box shaped vehicles.
The trunk, the hood, and the body of the car all had the same dimensions. Like it was It was a giant vehicle, but anyway, he'd drive around in that, and that was what he hunted from. He'd basically lean against it and hunt. But the trunk always had something in it, whether it was peppermint schnapps, peach schnapps, something like that. So whenever the ice was broken for the hunt, someone got their first deer, the bottle got passed around, everybody took a quick swig. And then at night, sitting around the fire, warming up, because it was generally very cold during those seasons, kind of the same concept. And so anyway, if you're a young buck or an old buck, regardless of how much or how little you've ever had to drink, you got broke in at deer camp. Like that was just a tradition of it.
I think it was a survival tactic probably at start too, because he had like 1,800 square foot, probably Morton building garage that we'd all meet up at, where they'd hang the deer, where like we'd eat sometimes if we didn't go into the one standing building in that town. That was the bar and grill, or stuff like that. And he had, it's the truth. I should say one structurally stable building. They were standing just until someone, threw a freaking baseball at it or something one day, and farted even, or stared too hard in its direction. But
for sure.
Anyways, like his Morton building, like it was a nice setup, like nothing against that, but he had like this little wood burning stove towards the back of it that probably had the BTU heating equivalent of your typical space heater you can buy at Costco and plug into the wall. And nobody would think to start it up before everyone got back either. So it'd just be cold as balls by the time you got there. And then they're like, well, I'll throw 2 logs on the fire and it'll warm up real quick. Don't worry, guys. Like, it's like, no, I think our body heat warmed it up faster than that thing did. But yeah. Yep. And I was back when I could stand cold. It was just like, are you kidding me? Like,
can you imagine you today trying to stand that? You'd fall apart, dude.
I don't know. I get used to the cold fairly quickly. It always floors me because I never expect to. Like I recognize, living in Texas, what it does to people.
What it does to
and
people.
Stuff. I mean, look at Rogan now; he's way different. But even when I flew into Bozeman, like I purposely brought, it wasn't this jacket; it was the same thing, different color, because they're from Costco. And stuff, and it was too hot to wear in Austin going to the airport, so I was just carrying it on my lap and I threw it on. And I was looking for where you parked outside the airport. I was like, oh, this is actually kind of like, not like I wasn't sweating, but it was like, oh, it's kind of warm. Like unzipped it and stuff and was just keeping it on because like surely like it was going to hit me at some point, because it was like, it wasn't below freezing, but it was like upper 30s or low 40s or something, and it was like 78 or 80 something when I flew out of Austin. But I will definitely say the mornings hit me. When we're actually in Wyoming, like every morning I would be like kind of, keeping like my breath down, like blowing myself, like whatever. And like my extremities were like cold. But by the afternoon I'd be like, oh, it's not that bad. It's warmed up because the sun's out and everything. And we get back in the truck and like it's 37 degrees. It's like, oh, okay, so it warmed up from 20 something to 30 something. It's like, but it's like I was just double this temperature a week ago. And I like got used to it pretty quickly. And then I came back to Austin. I was just like damn near pitting out in the office every day because it's like 75 degrees in the office. And I was in a polo and jeans. I'm like, oh, it's toasty in here. And then I keep me as a space heater under a desk and whatnot.
Oh, for sure. So it's still a part of your blood. You still got it.
Yeah, it comes back quickly, but like it's not necessarily automatic. But
so before we get to the Wyoming piece, I kind of just wanted to cover this because this was kind of a big thing that for me was a push. I don't know. Number one, all of us live in different places now. So we obviously got to experience deer camp a couple times together, which was really cool. But our parents, for me, that's what I'm going to get to here in a second. But like my parents or our parents live, there we go. My parents, your parents again. So our parents, that's a running joke.
I'm adopted in case anyone was wondering.
Yeah, but I'm the redhead. So it's really
that's
weird.
Why I'm way more handsome.
Well, for sure. That flowing hair you have. So anyway, so our parents live back in Iowa. Chris lives in Texas. I live in Montana, and every few years we'll be traveling around because my wife's military career. So for me, it was kind of the same. It's kind of cool actually to hear you say that the deer camp piece of it was what made you kind of want to go and tag along in the first place, because that's also the same drive I feel like I've had here in Montana. is like, man, like we really don't get to spend a lot of time together. We get Christmas, you know, because you always come up for Christmas, which is really cool. You know, visit mom and dad maybe a couple times a year if I travel back for work, but nothing permanent. So, but for the guys piece of it, that's kind of what got me on this kick of like, hey man, I really want to like try to coordinate some kind of hunt that Dad, Chris, and I can all go on every year and just have that time together. Because it's if you've never been in a deer camp or whatever, as a guy or a girl or whatever, it's just like a special time, and it's kind of like a time you can kick loose. Nothing else matters. You can leave work behind, kind of leave your BS behind, and just get to go cut loose with the dudes or gals or whatever, and just have a good time, hunt. And it's kind of just I don't know, it's a really cool experience. So, but you know, with Chris wanting to go on this, so you had a really cool idea of what was going to happen, but then we end up getting into some of these hunts, and you kind of got well, not kind of, you got turned off from hunting, like basically totally, like sold your shotgun, said I'm done with it. Like, so walk me through that. Like I've been through it, but I walked the people through it. So like, I understand like where your mentality shifted from, hey, I want to be a part of deer camp to this isn't for me. Thanks so much for listening to the podcast episode today, guys. It was so much fun having my brother on, getting to reminisce about old times on the podcast and just spend some time with him on our time down in Wyoming on his first ever successful big game hunt. We're going to hear the story of that hunt on part 3. Coming up next week in part 2, we're actually going to take a little bit of a step back in the past and go over Chris's first big game experience in the field on a deer hunt in Iowa, and how that experience actually almost pushed him away from hunting completely. You know, and just this whole 3-part story, you know, we're going to cover a lot and kind of digest some stuff that, you know, about hunting safety and things like that. And, you know, knowing now that this is actually kind of a redemption story with Chris's success in Wyoming and the fun we had and just such a unique experience, it actually reminds me a little bit from a passage from Romans chapter 5, verses 3-5, which says, not only so, but we glory in our sufferings, because we know that suffering produces perseverance, perseverance produces character, and character produces hope. And hope does not put us to shame, because God's love is poured out into our hearts through the Holy Spirit, which has been given to us. And just some reflecting on that verse, you know, the biggest things I pull from that is the perseverance produces character, character produces hope. And everything in life, you know, you can always hope for a better outcome in the future, no matter what you're going through now, whether it's good, bad, ugly, indifferent, you know, anything like that. There's always the hope, because of what Jesus did for us, to take us into the future, having hope for a better future, a better tomorrow, and at the end of the day, getting to go home to God, you know, at the end of this life here, before everything gets made new. And, you know, this story of Chris with his Wyoming antelope, I relate a lot to that, because he went from the bottom of the absolute barrel in terms of hunting stories and what could turn someone off of hunting. And if you know anything about my brother, man, like, he's good at what he does because of his mentality, and he's a guy that's you know, gonna always push through and do what he believes is right in his heart, and he's gonna solidify it with, you know, experiences and facts and everything in his head. He's just that kind of guy. That's what makes him a great engineer. And you know, but anyway, the story that you're going to hear next week is going to tee this off of kind of that, you know, glory in our sufferings, because sometimes suffering is what produces the sweeter moments down the road. And in part 3, we're going to see what that sweet moment looks like with his success in Wyoming. So thanks so much again for listening, guys. We appreciate you being a part of our audience. If you would, go leave us hopefully a 5-star rating on your favorite podcast listening platform. And stay tuned for next week with part 2 of this 3-part series with my younger brother, Chris, and he'll tell the story of what almost knocked him out of big game hunting. Thanks again, and as always, keep praying and slaying.